We'll try to help you make peace with the Palestinians, but only on the basis of a two-state solution. So thank God this community is not going to be destroyed, but it's actually now going to be able to stay where it's at and also to build. The Palestinian Authority paid 600 million shekels just last year to terrorists and their families to murder Jews. Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Guys, a lot is happening in Israel today, and we're going to start off with some good news, actually. Israel has just decided to withhold 600 million shekels from the Palestinian Authority over terror payments. The Palestinian Authority pays terrorists to go out and murder Jews. And Israel is collecting taxes for Israel, for the PA, which they do on a regular basis, which again demonstrates the incompetence of the PA, the Palestinian Authority organization themselves. So Israel is collecting their taxes, and they have decided to withhold 600 million shekels because that is the amount that the PA paid to terrorists just last year. 600 million shekels is roughly $170 million. That's how much money the PA is paying these guys. And that is just mind-boggling to start with, that this is an organization that the Palestinian Authority, this is the same people that President Joe Biden went and met with just 2 weeks ago, had a real, buddy, gave him a nice warm embrace, conversation, talked about peace agreements, talked about the Palestinians' need for a two-state solution. This is the same organization, the Palestinian Authority, paid 600 million shekels just last year to terrorists and their families to murder Jews. So this is super positive that Israel has decided to withhold some of these funds. Now, this is not the first time Israel is doing this, because they actually do this regularly when they collect taxes, because this is absolutely inappropriate. This is absolutely cannot happen for the Palestinian Authority to be receiving aid from all these external sources, from the European Union, from the U.S., from all these different international organizations as well. They're receiving these aid, and the Palestinian Authority, one of their first priorities is, maybe the first priority is actually to line their own pockets, because it's a very corrupt organization with corrupt leadership. But one of the first priorities as well is to pay the terrorists. It's not to actually provide help and support for the Palestinians who are in desperate need of help, who are poverty-stricken, do not have enough money to buy food, or don't even have proper shelter. They live in refugee camps inside these massive Arab cities. Unfortunately, the money that is coming from these organizations and also from Israel, when they collect the PA's taxes for them, that money is often and hardly ever goes to the actual people who are in need. Unfortunately, it goes to line the pockets of the PA and also to pay these terrorists. So this is good, and this needs to happen on a more international level. The U.S. needs to say, we are going to stop aid to the Palestinian Authority until you stop paying terrorists, and get your act together. Maybe start helping your own people and providing social welfare, economic relief to the poverty-stricken people of the Palestinian people inside of Israel as well. The EU needs to do the same thing. We cannot be giving aid and not following through on where this aid is actually going to and where it actually ends up inside of the Palestinian Authority. So that's a good thing coming from the Security Cabinet. Just voted yesterday morning on that. So that's a positive thing coming out of the Israeli government, who Yair Lapid is rather left. So it's a good thing. Obviously, very dedicated to security and defense of Israel as well. Now, Yair Lapid just held his first meeting with the King of Jordan, King Abdullah of Jordan, last Wednesday. And this is his first meeting as the Prime Minister of Israel. He actually traveled to Amman, and the two leaders discussed a variety of topics, including relations between the countries and more meaning behind their peace agreement. Israel and Jordan are currently in a peace agreement. And according to the Jerusalem Post, among other things, they discussed the U.S. President Biden's recent visit to the region. They discussed opportunities relating to regional architecture between the two countries. They also had an emphasis on defense. Now, the Royal Hashemite Court, the RHC, I believe, actually tweeted. They have a Twitter account, and they tweeted after the visit and after the conversation between the two leaders that, quote, His Majesty King Abdullah II meets Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid, reaffirms need to create political horizon to achieve just, comprehensive, lasting peace on a basis of a two-state solution and bolster regional security, stability, and development, which must include the Palestinians, end quote. So this is the synopsis of the meeting, according to the Royal Hashemite quote, that His Majesty King Abdullah, he's coming with, he wants to reaffirm the need to create political horizons to achieve peace, basically, but the only way to do that is on the basis of a two-state solution. So he's saying, I want to make peace, but my stipulation is it has to be on the basis of a two-state solution, and it has to include the security, stability, and development of the region has to include the Palestinians. Okay, so including the Palestinians is a good thing. The fact that King Abdullah is coming with a stipulation of a two-state solution, saying, okay, we're going to make peace. We'll try to help you make peace with the Palestinians, but only on the basis of a two-state solution. Same thing we're talking about with Joe Biden met with the Palestinian Authority last week. All these guys have stipulations when it comes to peace. Mahmoud Abbas said, we're ready to make peace, whatever he says. He's a two-faced apple. Go and watch our last show last week. Joshua and Luke talked extensively about Mahmoud Abbas and the real guy he actually is. But we see this over and over with different leaders in the region. Saudi Arabia also said to President Biden that we are willing to normalize ties with Israel, but only on the basis of a two-state solution. So they're saying, we want to make peace. We're willing to make peace. They sound, it sounds like a good thing. Like they're the good guys here, willing to make peace, but only on the basis of a two-state solution. The problem I see with this is that Yair Lapid, as the Prime Minister of Israel, going into a talk like this with the King of Jordan had his stipulations. Two-state solution must include the Palestinian with all this regional development and such. Yair Lapid didn't have come to the table with his own stipulations, and that really reflects the attitude of Israel over the years of trying to make peace with all their Arab neighbors, also with the Palestinians saying, we're willing to do whatever it takes to make peace. Obviously, you can't have peace if your citizens are in danger, or it undermines the security of the state of Israel, which would happen if a two-state solution happened inside of Judea and Samaria with the Palestinians. But Israel needs to, I feel like Israel needs to come to the table with their own set of stipulations, because all these other countries are coming as well. Now, if everybody's coming to the table saying, all right, we're going to figure out a real way to make peace, everything's on the table, everything's off the table, maybe, we can just talk about anything, then maybe you'll get some. Probably not, because we've seen over the years it's not even, hasn't happened with these Arab countries. But Israel needs to come with their security concerns and their security needs. That needs to be the top priority of these discussions with these leaders. Unfortunately, it's not a top priority for these leaders, is Israel's security. They may say that in face, but really deep down, and you can see it from the history of these guys, they're not concerned. That's not the top priority, is the concern of the security of the state of Israel. The leaders also talked about other things. Including, this is from the Jerusalem Post, they also discussed a planned bilateral energy and water project that Jordan would build like a solar field, which would provide clean energy for Israel. Israel would build a desalination plant for Jordan to provide clean water for Jordan. Also talked about building a shared industrial park. Talked about tourism down in Eilat and Aqaba. Talked about a lot of things. And according to Reuters, King Abdullah said the Palestinians must be included in the U.S.-backed economic initiatives in the region. So, according to Abdullah, Palestinians must be included if the U.S.-backed economic initiatives in the region for Jordan and Israel here. Again, another stipulation King Abdullah is putting forward in meeting with the Israeli leader. Israel needs to be more bold. Israel needs to come to the table with points of strength, saying these are our red lines we cannot cross, because Israel needs to be secure, needs to be sovereign, needs to be independent state inside of the land of Israel, and I believe with the whole land of Israel. But they need to stipulate that with these meetings that they're having with these Arab leaders, and even with U.S. leaders that are trying to broker peace inside of the Middle East. Just yesterday, actually on Saturday, the Defense Minister Benny Gantz had a conversation with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. And again, Antony Blinken is putting the blame on Israel for the death of Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh. The State Department issued a statement. State Department spokesperson Ned Price actually issued a statement following the conversation, and he said that the two discussed a range of security challenges, including the threats posed by Iran and U.S. support for Israel's security. It's good. The U.S. is committed to supporting Israel's security. They say that. That is absolutely incredible. Secretary Blinken reiterated the administration's belief that Israelis and Palestinians deserve to enjoy equal measures of security, freedom, and democracy. The secretary also raised the tragic killing of Palestinian-American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh and the, quote, need for accountability. The Secretary of State saying there's a need for accountability, and they know that Israel is doing an investigation right now on the death of this journalist. Also, they and Saud did a joint investigation after the PA released the bullet to Israel, and the State Department a few weeks ago put out a statement basically saying it is impossible to tell who killed the journalist, so it was probably killed. She was probably killed by Israelis accidentally. Basically contradicting themselves because they said it's possible to tell, but we're going to blame Israel for it because it probably happened from Israel. Now, Gantz, defense minister, office said in a statement following the conversation with Blinken that he said that the IDF is working to complete its investigation of the events that led to the passing of journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, and says that Israel will share the results of the investigation with the U.S. upon its completion. Share the results, share the investigation, the whole thing, super transparent on the whole investigation, so the world will know what they found, and if indeed they found that they were responsible, Israel will say that, and they will take complete responsibility. They will be accountable. They'll hold themselves accountable for this tragic death of this journalist. Right now, there's no concrete evidence or proof that that happened. The whole world has just been blaming Israel for this tragic death. All right, we're going to talk about give you an update on settlements in Judea and Samaria. Actually, a huge win happened this week for a settlement in southern Samaria. But first, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Atlas VPN. A VPN stands for a virtual private network, and it makes all your internet traffic travel through an encrypted tunnel, basically protects it from all these companies that are trying to steal your data, trying to steal your information online. It also protects you from spying, from Wi-Fi dangers, and hides your IP address, and also all your online activity. You can even set your device to stream or to a virtual location anywhere in the world. So you can set to be browsing from, if you're over here in Israel, you can set to be browsing from the United States. If you're in Europe somewhere, you can be set to browsing from somewhere in Africa. Wherever you need, if there's a place that doesn't provide service to your country or the location you're in, just change your location and you automatically receive that service, and it bypasses it that way. A VPN sounds complicated to some people, but basically it protects you wherever you are on the internet, and people are on the internet a lot these days. You need to think about hackers and scanners who are trying to steal your identity, your passwords, your bank account, etc. Basically, it's a security system for your online activity. If you have a security system for your house, I would recommend you get a security system for your online activity, digital security system. Right now, Atlas VPN is running a huge sale, partnered with us, and you can get a 3-year subscription to Atlas VPN for just $1.83 a month. That's a steal of a deal. Very, very low prices, one of the lowest I've seen around. And also 3 months free on top of that, and you don't have to risk anything because Atlas VPN offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. Guys, I use a VPN every single day when I'm online a lot, researching and doing all our media stuff here at the Israel Guys. I definitely recommend you go check it out. Link is in the description below. Go sign up for Atlas VPN today. All right, on Wednesday, this past Wednesday, the Supreme Court overturned its previous ruling to demolish Mitzpeh Kramim. So Mitzpeh Kramim is a settlement in southern Samaria and actually the Binyamin region. And I believe there's 45 homes that were previously actually in May of 2020. The Supreme Court ruled to demolish and evict all the inhabitant or all the residents of this town because apparently I believe the government commissioner who is in charge of allocating land for new settlements and such gave this piece of land to this settlement, gave them permission to build on it, and then afterwards they realized that there were private Arab contracts or deeds to the lands. Basically, it was not necessarily state land, but it was owned by privately owned by Arabs. So previously, whenever that's happened in different settlements around Judea and Samaria, they go in to demolish and evict all the residents on that particular piece of land. And that's what they ruled in May of 2020. Thankfully, just this last Wednesday, the Supreme Court overturned its previous ruling to demolish Mitzpe Kramim. And it's also going to affect other communities that have this same issue, where they find out later, they don't know at the time, they find out later that they actually built on, privately owned Arab land. And a lot of times the Arabs don't even have the deeds to this place. It's just labeled as privately owned. And so typically the government of Israel destroys those. But actually they just changed this ruling. So thank God this community is not going to be destroyed, but it's actually now going to be able to stay where it's at and also to build. Interior Minister Yair Lapid welcomed the Supreme Court's ruling for this decision. Absolutely common sense and makes sense, and also it's the right thing that needed to happen right here. Yair Lapid said, quote, "Common sense and the Zionist spirit won. As Justice Minister," she was the Justice Minister at the time in 2020, "I had the privilege to lead the state's position, and now the Supreme Court has made the correct and necessary ruling." Absolutely. Also, the current Justice Minister, Gideon Sa'ar, said, "I welcome this important ruling in which justice was done by the Supreme Court in the latest hearing on Mitzpe Kramim. The majority opinion overturned the previous ruling and stated that the residents of the settlement will not be evicted from their homes because they were sent there by the state and relied on it. I congratulate my partner, Defense Minister Benny Gantz, who initiated the request for further discussion and work to change the results." And it is true. Benny Gantz is the one that asked for this hearing to rethink this or overturn this ruling for this particular community. And as we've seen recently, Benny Gantz is not pro-settlement in Judea and Samaria with what we saw the last several weeks. But fortunately, actually, settlement growth and new settlement growth inside of Judea and Samaria is very popular in Israel, and Israel is headed to new elections in November. So it seems to be an election ploy right here with Benny Gantz doing this, saying, "Oh yeah, I am pro-settlements. I just helped this settlement get off the ground and avoid being destroyed by the Supreme Court here." So absolutely amazing news from Judea and Samaria. New settlement, not going to be destroyed, actually going to be allowed to grow. So it's a step forward in settling the land of Israel. Guys, let us know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget, we now have a video on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening in the land of Israel. We'll be back every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.